I am a huge River City fan. I've done a lot of videos on various River City games that have finally made their way over to the good old United States of America. And I'm super happy to finally say that the Three Kingdoms River City game is finally coming over. Now, if you're not familiar with Romance of the Three Kingdoms or any of that whole universe, look no further than Dynasty Warriors. You guys remember Dynasty Warriors. Dynasty Warriors is where you were basically playing as a general of one of these three empires vying for control of China during a very, very tumultuous time in history. The key tenet of those Dynasty Warrior games was the 1 versus 1,000 combat, where you would swing your sword and hit hundreds of enemies at a time, launching them into the air, doing insanely powerful moves that would kill hundreds of enemies, over the course of a map. It was nonstop bonkers action, and it worked. It worked for a very long time. Series has gotten a little stale, okay? But River City has decided they are going to put their own spin on it. And what I'm going to be showing you today is the game trailer for the River City Saga Three Kingdoms announcement trailer. We're going to watch it, and I'm going to pause it at a couple of key moments because there's a couple things I want to highlight. First and foremost, Arc System Works continues to own this franchise. They just celebrated 35 years, which is awesome. Super happy that these guys are still around and still making great games. Now, one of the key tenets of a River City game, obviously, is this 2D side-scrolling, very pixelated, very over-the-top animated reaction. Here you can see a character swinging a stick. We have damage numbers now on the screen. Some of the River City games had that, some don't. It's cool to see that this is treated sort of like a light JRPG with different pieces of armor and gear that are going to determine just how hard you wallop people. But you'll notice, like the guy on the right, the reaction he has with his mouth wide open. You got a guy that's flying basically on his back with his hands in the air. You got a guy down at the bottom who looks like he's about to fade away from reality. That's how enemies die in this game. You have your sticks, you have your rocks. Everything you expect from a River City game has been injected into this, obviously with the backdrop now of this Romance of the Three Kingdoms universe. So instead of running through city streets like you've done before, or the factory or the schools, you take out the gang members, this game is going to take place in a totally different setting. Still maintains that same side-scrolling 2D charm, by the way, which is really, really cool. There you can see a lot of super moves being implemented. Now, one of the really cool things, and here's a really cool little flashy animation, we'll go ahead and pause it after this, that I mentioned that the Dynasty Warriors has always had. One of the really cool things there is these over-the-top moves that would break away combat for a moment, where you'd pull out your sword. It would do this really crazy zoomed-in cutscene where you'd summon some sort of mythical beast, or you would be enraged and do some over-the-top power, and that's exactly what we're looking at here. This guy in the middle of combat, which is different than a River City game that we've seen in the past. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Different than a River City game that we've seen in the past, where essentially you have a character, basically these nice hand-drawn animation. We saw them the first time really in River City Girls, where you had these really cool animations kind of over the gameplay as they narrated kind of what was going on in the world. Here you're playing as Guan Yu. Guan Yu is then going to basically build up his meter by attacking a bunch of people, and then he's going to unload this devastating move, which is what you see here. The gameplay cuts away. We're sent a really cool 2D pixel art of these archers that absolutely lay waste to the map, which is really, really, really cool as well. One of the other things that they did, and this is probably something that, and I think I missed it again. There we go. One of the other cool things that they're doing with this game is they're injecting a lot of the lore of the River City franchise into the game. So if you've played any of the Dynasty Warrior games, you are probably familiar with Lu Bu. Lubu is the most OP, broken, insanely powerful enemy to fight in any of the games. Single-handedly wins any war, any map, any time. They've taken the idea of Lubu and they have kind of done a little bit of a gender bender here and implemented Misu over the top of it, which is really, really cool. So characters you remember seeing, and you'll see a couple of them at the end. If you remember from the Double Dragon world, you remember like Abobo. You remember Abobo, the bald guy? Well, there's like a variation of him in there. There are other characters that I won't go too nerd out for you guys, but my point is they are paying tribute to the age-old lore of River City. This is not just a 2D direct port of a Dynasty Warriors game. They have injected the famous characters and the shops and the heart and the soul of a River City game with this Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is really, really cool. Here you'll see some of the dialogue that pops up. You'll see that there's a lot of different terrains to explore, and what I'm curious about how this game is going to work out is because of the other River City games basically being 2D in nature with various kind of, there's not a whole lot of break out of the map. I'll be curious to see how they play that off here. One of the real charms of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms games, and not just in the Dynasty Warriors, this game has been kind of broken apart into other franchises. But what I'm curious is those games have giant open worlds, massive places where you'll be called into a certain part, an ally somewhere will be being hurt. You'll have to run as fast as you can over to that direction, or you'll have to defend an enemy push from somewhere else, or an objective will appear on the map. I'll be curious to see how they implement that in a 2D space. River City games have never been known for their great navigation. River City Girls did have a map that showed off where you could kind of like go on the subway here, ride the bus here, go somewhere else. Those were different because those were more fast travel type things. I'll be curious in a game like this where obviously that doesn't exist, how they're going to be able to put it all together. So I am super excited for this. This is a no-brainer day one purchase for me. I'll most likely be picking up on the Switch. That's where I like to play a lot of these side-scroller beat-em-up games. And it's coming July 21st. As far as I can tell, there's no collector edition. Sometimes they do like a small limited edition. One time they gave away a keychain. Sometimes you get some cool box art or anything. I haven't seen them announce anything. I don't know a game like this if it's going to draw massive, massive critical attention and response. Obviously, I'm doing a video about it. But I don't know in a game like this how much we can expect to see in terms of, just broad appeal. But if you are a fan of side-scrolling beat-em-ups and you want to play 4-player co-op with your buddies and go around and do crazy things like this, this is going to be just an absolute gem to play. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. What an unexpected surprise. That's it. That'll wrap up today's video. Check it out. Check it out when it comes out. Go play some of the other River City games. Go play River City Girls. They're phenomenal experiences. I've done reviews on them. As a matter of fact, I'll post a link in the description below. That's all, guys. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.